what's on your mind?
Okay, that's got me claimed, but that's just too badass. I gotta play that anyway.
That's fucking wicked, though.
It is. It's so wicked. All right, we got Willow here because, yep. Hold on 1 second. Hell, man. Yep. Smash that like button and ring that bell. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I think he's got a wrench. Let me look right quick. Let me check.
Yeah, give that man a wrench if he doesn't.
Yeah, he's got one. All right. Yeah. So, this third time to the well. The first time was we did Pulp versus Noir because we're like contrasting the two, explaining that. Hold on a second. Shadowpunk says that intro was killer. Does it have anything to do with yours being on there? Maybe a little bit. Anyway. Anyway. So first was Pulp versus Noir. We contrasted the two. We talk about what differentiates the two. The second episode was Pulp or Noir, which was like how to tell, what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with something that's pulp or are you dealing with something noir? But today is Pulp and Noir, which is we're going to talk about how to use those two concepts to improve your writing. Anyway, so let me do a quick explanation of what Pulp and Noir is. Okay, now just the historical thing, the historical record, which is that pulp is a kind of paper that they printed these things on, which is basically a composite. It wasn't really paper; it's like a composite of paper materials. It was like a cheap way to get everything printed. But hold on 1 second. Okay. I thought I had something pulled up. No, I don't. Anyway, moving on. But Noir was actually a version that kind of rose up parallel. It was in French literature. And it was it's kind of like the darker side of things. Now, you can go back even further. So Pulp and Noir could also be like the original concept that the Greeks came up with, which was drama comedy, right? Which means happy ending, sad ending. Basically, comedy was just that it had happy endings, and drama was just that it had sad ending. So that this is binary. It goes all the way back to the beginning of literature. Okay, Pulp and Noir is just the two terms that I'm using to kind of like take place of. But what I'm talking about is actually the binary, the ones and zeros of storytelling. Is that you guys following me so far?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure. Okay. All right. Shadowpunk says, "Hey, Will, General Piggy, hello, dude." And let's see, GP. There we go. Yep, there's been a General Piggy sighting. There you go. Well, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. All right. So pulp characters are usually the main differentiation between the pulp character and the noir character is their sense of morality. They have a definitive sense of morality. Okay. Now, Does that mean right or wrong? No, it just means that they have a moral code. Okay, a moral code that they go by. Now, and the noir character doesn't have that moral code, and so that's the main differentiation. That's like at the core of everything. But there's things that are piled kind of on top of that. Like pulp heroes tend to have some element of them that's supernatural, and noir tend to be very, very human and very flawed. Okay, and the pulp tends to be like brighter and heroic, and noir tends to be darker and more negative. Okay, so now yeah, I know that a lot of people want to see a lot of shades of gray, but basically at the core, it's really truly a binary. It's black and white essentially. Now, what does that mean for storytelling in general? Okay, now as we learned in the last episode, when we were differentiating between that a character that is a pulp character will have a definitive moral code. Now, that could be a villain. That could very easily be a villain. Okay. I mean, he has his own sense of morality, but it could be a very skewed sense of morality that causes him to do things that are hurtful to others. See what I'm saying?
Oh
Yeah, I think Galadriel in Rings of Power is a pulp villain.
There you go. There you go.
You bastard.
I figured Rings of Poop would wind up somewhere.
Well, I was gonna bring up She-Hulk, so
She-Hulk. Oh, okay, there you go. There you go. What would you say she's pulp or noir? Does she have a definitive moral code?
She-Hulk, I'd say.
I think she does have a definitive moral code. It's feminism.
Yeah. Feminism. Well, that's not really a moral code, though.
I was gonna say
they have made it a moral code.
The comics version, I would say, is a pulp hero, but the TV show version is a pulp villain.
I would say the comic version is actually more noir by his definition, because what they try to do is set up that she's more a lawyer than a superhero in the comics.
Oh, okay.
Especially as of late. Like they've wanted her to be sort of like Daredevil. You know what I mean? Where she's a serious lawyer. She's a serious attorney. The problem is that the show were written by stupid people, and these stupid people have even admitted they cannot write a crime drama in a show supposed to be a crime drama.
Which is why they added a twerking scene on the end. There you go.
And demons.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Dr. Doom has a definitive moral code. Yes, he does. He's a very good example of that. He is definitely pulp. Because he has a supernatural element. He has a definitive moral code. Now, how does that interact? Okay. Now, the example we've been using is Tombstone. You guys are familiar with the movie?
No.
No? Seriously?
Give me a premise. I am 25.
Are you kidding me? There's people that are 12 that know that movie inside and out.
I was raised without culture.
All right. Okay. Tombstone is Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Okay. Wyatt Earp he's a definitive pulp character. Okay. He has a definite moral code. He definitely he actually did some shady dealings, but he also had a sense of justice, which is why he couldn't let things go, which is what caused the conflict that he involved himself in. But Doc Holliday was a complete noir character. He had no moral code whatsoever. And he basically adopted Wyatt Earp's moral code because he trusted Wyatt Earp, and basically he believed him to be a good man. And so even though he didn't know what right from wrong, he basically adopted whatever Wyatt said was right or wrong. And so that's how those two interacted. So you had a pulp character and you had a noir character working side by side. But towards the end of the movie, Johnny Ringo, who's like the villain of the piece, calls Wyatt Earp out, and it's definitely been established that Johnny Ringo is like scary fast with a gun. Okay. And
don't tell me anymore because I want to actually watch this movie now.
Okay. Well, see, now that I can't explain the rest of it. Okay, all right.
Okay, I'll mute myself. Just give me a sign.
Shadowpunk is calling you out. Who hasn't seen Tombstone? This guy has not seen Tombstone. Okay,
I haven't seen a lot.
Buddy evolved one time. I don't even know what he's saying there. Anyway, it appears my hypocrisy knows no bounds. Yep, that's a line from the movie. Doc Holliday, right. But that's a good example of a pulp character and a noir character. Now, if you get those two side by side, most often the pulp character will pull the noir character either towards or further, or bring them further closer to the line of good and morality, or push them further away. But the noir character basically, because the pulp character is so definitive and so sure of themselves and so sure of their moral code. And we lost Buddy. He probably went through a tunnel. Don't worry, guys. Yeah. No big deal. He's traveling, so he might pop out from time to time.
Tombstone is probably the most quoted by Gen X and probably like even before that men, other than like 13th Warrior.
Yeah. Well, we definitely quote 13th Warrior around here. You know darn right. Yep. Salutations, my friend. Yeah. Like 13th Warrior, basically 13th Warrior is all pulp characters. I mean, they're all pulp characters. Even the guy, Ibn, he kind of has a slack moral code, but he does have, like, because of his religion, he does have like a definitive.
Well, I think he literally he goes through the transformation, right? Like, I mean, he doesn't have one at first, and then he kind of develops one as he fights with these hard men doing this impossible thing. You know, he's like,
it's like his religion at first was just a rote thing for him, but then it became real to him as he went. As he got further and further in over his head, and he needed some touchstone to hold on to, and he saw these men who like believed in their God, I
think it's a little bit like it's a little like he decided in the end, maybe there's more than one God, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
He's like, because like, what is it, Herger?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, do not worry, I will pray to all the gods.
Right.
I'll do both. It's all good.
Exactly. You always say darn and not damn, you bunny, you. Okay, well, it is what it's. It's okay. We dropped Buddy, but we'll get him back. But yeah, when you see that happen, like that's usually like if you have a noir character and pulp character in like conjunction with one another, you will often see the noir character get pulled towards the morality. And boom, and you're back. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's on the browser, like twisted. The phone turned and it like turned off for some reason.
Okay. Yo, sup, bros? Hey, Kokushuko. All right,
so, but yeah. Anyways, I would argue that Doc Holliday is. Mm-hmm. I think Doc Holliday is a man who actually has a strong moral code.
Okay.
That when he came across and he found that did not benefit you, he changed, and it broke him.
Yeah.
Damn. And what it took was the reason why Wyatt Earp works is because Wyatt does have a moral code, but he's not perfect.
Right. Yeah, and he was not like better than thou, and so Doc Holliday could be around him and not feel like.
Well, I think Holliday wanted to be the man Earp was, because Earp had gone through a lot.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah. And I think Holliday decided, he was smarter, and in a logistic sense, and I think he was like, well, F this, I'm just going to cheat.
Right.
He just decided at some point, I'm going to cheat. I don't care.
Yeah. Funny thing, interesting thing about that though, and this is actual history, Aaron. So don't get it. Don't at me.
I know.
Yeah. So Wyatt Earp actually lost his shit for a while. And he had a family tragedy. I'll just say that much so I don't spoil much. Anyway, indie wrestling. Hey, help people. Hey, man.
Oh, I'm just joking. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, his brother.
If you twerk, I'm out.
Not gonna happen. All right.
Yeah.
But his brother gets back shot, right? And dies in his arms. And Wyatt loses his shit. I mean, he goes on the vengeance, like a vengeance ride. And this happened originally. This happened originally. This is after the OK Corral gun. You've heard of that at least, right?
Yeah.
The gunfight at the OK Corral. Okay. All right. Just making sure. But anyway, so his in the aftermath, his brother gets back shot. Okay, this has actually happened. Okay, and Wyatt Earp went on a vengeance ride. I mean, he went after people, to the extent where Doc Holliday was actually saying, "Man, you're acting like me now," and Doc Holliday was actually calling him out. He's like, if you act like me, then who's going to be the good guy here? You're my moral compass, and if you go awry, and so at the end, Doc Holliday basically takes the chance that Wyatt Earp couldn't handle, and puts his own life on the line for his friend, because he would rather there be a Wyatt Earp in the world than a Doc Holliday in the world. And that's the relationship. Hold on one second. Isn't this really a Star Trek episode? No, it's not. Hell's coming with me, Wyatt Earp. Yeah, that's an actual quote. He actually said that. Wyatt Earp actually said that. Yeah, when Wyatt Earp went off the reservation, he went way off the reservation. I mean, it was a body count. Okay, what a good man goes bad. Let the bodies hit the flow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when he's accompanied by three of the best gunmen known around the world.
Right. That did help. That did help a little bit.
It's not like he just went out there with a couple scrubs.
No. He was.
He walked outside. He said, "You sweeper. You can hold a gun, right? Yeah, come." Wasn't like that. So.
No, it's He didn't take scrubs along with him. But there's an actual scene in the movie that actually happened in real life. It was like several people had account of this, where he charged a guy firing at him. Just charged him at a riverbed, right? Just ran at him, right? And managed to kill him. But then later on, he found all these bullet holes in his coat.
George Washington had the same thing happen to him.
Yeah, right.
Several times.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty incredible story. Doc was sick, right? He was always a badass. Only when he was.
He had tuberculosis, I think.
Tuberculosis, yeah.
Same thing that took out Jonathan Keats. My God, two brilliant men.
Right. No, really, Spectre of the Gun, Kirk, and Gang play the role of the Earps. Oh, that's right. Well, yeah. They were kind of the bad guys in that episode, though. So they were I believe Kirk and them played the Clantons. That didn't end well. They didn't end well for the Clantons. Anyway, thanks for getting me sidetracked, man. Anyway. Okay, so how does this apply? Okay, in your own writing, how does this apply? The significance of knowing the character that you're dealing with, whether they have a moral code or not, and even if it's a nascent moral code, which means a burgeoning one when it's not quite formed yet. If any moral code that they have that's like established. You have to know that this person, if a person has like his limitations, things that they will not do, then that's the presence of a moral code. And knowing whether your character has a moral code or not really matters to the writing, because writing is all about reaching the decisions you make when you reach a what happens next, a crossroads. Okay. And if you know your characters well enough, and you have to know your characters well enough to know what branch they'll take, that's where character comes in. That's where definitive character traits come in. Okay. When you read something where everybody's noir, nobody has a definitive character trait like that. Basically, they're going to do whatever they will. There's no lines that they won't cross. Then what that does is then you got a bunch of people who act exactly the same, and that's a boring story. Yeah, I'm sure we can all quote things off the top of our head that basically have an issue where if everybody's gray, then there's no definition. You've got a blob, amorphous mass. There's no real clarity to anything. Anyway,
all writing in the past, like, or like all shows, at least within the past 20 years.
yeah, pretty much all. Yeah, right. Well, the thing about it is, though, noir is not necessarily a bad thing, but noir only operates well when it has some kind of pulp character near it, or something to contrast with, something to play off of. That's why even in the darkest detective stories of the, like the
well, there's got to be conflict.
30s and 40s. Huh?
There's got to be drama and conflict. So if you have a noir hero, they have to live in a pulp world.
Right. True. Exactly. A good example of this, of a pulp character living in a noir world, would be Rorschach in Watchmen. He was the pulp character that was living in a noir world, which is why he had to die at the end. He had to die because the only way that solution that they were proffering was basically subverting morality. And he just couldn't do it. He didn't have it in him to do it. And he's like, what's more blood among the foundations? Because he just could not bend himself to accept what they were proposing. And in the cover up, he couldn't cover it up. He wouldn't be able to. And so
I don't think he did. In the book, didn't he like release the information about it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
A whole journal.
He sent the whole thing turned out to be a diary that he was writing that he sent to this right-wing independent publication, which is basically gonna blow the lid off of everything. So that was the big joke, which the like the little smiley face with the drop of blood on it. Yeah. So the whole entire thing was like, basically they did this horrible thing to kind of cover up the fact that they were manipulating mankind, quote, for its own good. And here he is. They murder him to cover it up, and he still gets the last word.
Exactly.
So, but even though he was a scary little guy and he was willing to kill, willing to do whatever it took, he had an inflexible moral code that could never bend enough to live in that world. Which is why he was an outcast the whole entire book and the whole entire movie. He was always an outcast because he couldn't live within that framework. He couldn't fit in. He's standing there in the seat with the end is near, the sign, he was that guy,
Was some of that a limitation? Like, because Rorschach is, in this instance, the everyman.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
because Rorschach had no powers. In the world of superpowers, he had none. So he's the every guy, right? He's just got determination. You know, like you said, the inflexible will.
Right. And
so
I mean, that whole entire thing about I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
True.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at is like, okay, he wanted to do things.
Yeah.
That were, I mean, he did break the law all the time.
Right.
So his moral code was just to do right, but only right as he knew it and as he was able. So let's say give him the power of Dr. Manhattan. What does he do?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good, you know, that's I mean, Manhattan basically didn't have a moral code because he was so
he could do anything.
Yeah,
he could do anything. It didn't matter.
He didn't understand why he needed one. You know.
Well, not only that, he saw the continuum of the entire universe.
Right.
So why he's like, I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm stuck in this second and it's unbearable.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like the old Kundera, right? The unbearable lightness of being. He's like, I am stuck in this moment.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Which is why I didn't wear trousers.
I mean, you imagine that, like, you know, you're having sex. It's the greatest thing she's ever done because you know exactly what she wants, right?
Right.
But you don't care because you are stuck in that moment when the rest of you feels eternity.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
And he's aware of that too.
Right.
That has to be the fucking worst thing.
Think about if you were just stuck in a moment forever, and it seemed like forever, because for you, literally, like every second, every bit is like everything. You know, you live the continuum not only of yourself but of everybody within every millisecond.
Right.
But right there in that moment, you're right there.
Yeah.
In this body, concentrating on whatever act that is.
Right.
That had to be painful.
Yeah, definitely. Kokosuko said, I thought he was the Noir. No, he wasn't the Noir. Keep enlightening me, bros. Working on it. I loved how most extreme character turned out to be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I get the idea of noir because I mean the actual like the history of noir is like the whole French movement, cinematic movement that was created in antithesis of the kind of more colorful movements going on around them, where they wanted to, they were poor and they were in the dirge and they didn't have the sort of successes that other countries had at the time. So they were like, we want to show like the dredges of humanity.
Right.
We want to show like more with, you know, less kind of thing is really what it's supposed to be. I mean, I think it literally means nothing.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And so, you know, that's what you're attempting to do. And I can see how people would think he is noir.
Yeah.
But I think what makes him not noir is that he goes to extremes. Like noir characters work within their limits.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Rorschach kind of like worked in order to, I mean, he became essentially a monster to live in a world of monsters. It's that old trope. Right.
Right.
I mean, he did some horrific things to people.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
You know, because he's like, F it. You don't deserve to live because I say so. I am now the judge, jury, and execution.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, yeah, when you think, you know, I mean, the guy, like when he had that snap moment, you know, it was because somebody did something so horrific that it like, he had to
the girl and the dogs, right?
Yeah, like how could one human being be so fucking horrendous?
Yeah, and it broke him a little bit, but he just like readjusted his moral code because
there's a great movie by or with Nicolas Cage in it. I think it's 8mm. I think it might be.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Where there's like a snuff film, and this woman sees the film and she's like, I don't know who that is, but I'm hiring you to try and figure it out. And he finds out that the girl was actually killed in the film. Like she was kidnapped and groomed, and then she was killed before she was even like 14. And he's like, I found them. And he calls the mom of the girl, and he's like, at the moment, he's like, I found him. I know what happened. She's dead. You'll never get her back, but I found him. Do you want me to hurt him? Do you want me to hurt him? And she says, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I need the closure. And he hung up the phone and just beat the guy to death.
Yeah, I remember.
Dang.
I remember.
And then it's like you go back to him and he's catatonic.
Yeah.
From like, finding out the truth. Like he's just sitting in a chair staring at the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, but broken. It definitely broken. Well, I mean, the thing about it is though, is that rigidness also has a drawback, because if something that extreme happens and it calls for you to like move beyond your moral code, well,
I think it's kind of like, because noir is almost its own moral code. It's like whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
But then, what if you have to have a principle to make something happen?
Right. Exactly.
Well,
it's like I was saying before. You can have villains that have a moral code, that are technically a noir character, even though they're doing awful things. Like Dr. Doom is protecting Latveria. But I mean, even though he's doing it for megalomaniacal reasons, he is protecting his people. And so, I mean, but then you got like people that are supposedly heroic, like Deadpool, who have absolutely no moral code. And so, but the thing about it what's important thing about it is, you got to have both in storytelling, and you have to have, because if you have just the pure pulp, everybody's pulp, everybody has a moral code, and then that you don't really have the variety. That's like Boy Scouts, and it's like Superman. The problem with Superman, he doesn't have any nuance, so people like they break Superman so they can have like variety or whatever. And everybody knows it's wrong.
Only idiots say that.
Only idiots, right? Only idiots say that, right?
I'm sorry,
right.
But
Right. But they think they have to break Superman because they can't like write him that way. But if you have
honestly, Superman and Lois is the best Superman like live action that we have seen since Reeves, in my opinion.
Yeah. I pretty much got like caught in the middle of season 1. I have to go back and finish that.
Dude, you need to watch up to like the end of season 2 is glorious.
Okay. I would definitely get back into that. Hold on a second. I noticed it the first time you guys talked about Pulp and Noire, but I think I'm finally getting it. There you go. Even Mad
You know what I would do? I'm a gamer, so you have to excuse me.
Right.
Okay. But like strategy RPGs, you have 2 different kinds of characters. You have original characters, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times original characters have baked in abilities. You can't change them.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
And then you have your generic characters. And the generic characters, and especially like strategy RPGs, normally can learn anything.
Right.
Now, the best characters, though, invariably in all these games, are original characters who can also learn all the other classes.
Right.
True.
Right.
True. I know what you're talking about, man.
But the best RPGs I've ever played, the best fun I've had, is when you had characters who had alignments and stuck to their alignments, right? The chaotic neutral guy, or the chaotic good, or the lawful good. Well,
that's it. Like that's the way they showed these kind of things. Like, oh god, Square was so good about this back in the day. Now they're not, but they used to be. Like there was Final Fantasy Tactics. There's a reason why that game is still played 30 years later.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And like the knights, a lot of people don't get this. The knights had these abilities called breaks that they could use with their weapon. Well, think about it. Why would you want to do that? Because they didn't want to kill.
Right.
I feel you.
Gotcha.
Let me break your weapon. Let me break your shield. Let me break your armor. Let me break your faith. I'll break any of that, but I'm trying not to kill you.
Right.
We're trying to have an honorable fight here.
Well, okay. Superman and Lois is legit. Can't believe I'm saying that. There you go. I'm with you in the gaming metaphors. There you go. Xenogears. And Fei Wong, Fei Fong Wong, and
Saitan.
Okay, that's gaming. That's beyond me, but that's fine.
I don't think that was gaming. That sounded like Big Trouble in Little China, I think.
Oh wait, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Oh man, I can't remember. I have to get my geek card, don't I? I have to turn in my geek card. Damn it.
No, it's fine. You can just have the one I lost.
As long as I got Aaron on stream, I'm good. He's not seen anything. He's not seen anything.
I was gonna say though, the best thing about Superman, and I'm gonna put this extension to Flash too, is that he's a pulp character in a pulp world, and normally that'd be boring. But the best thing about them is that they deal with noir villains who don't really care about anything, as long as they get what they want out of it.
Yeah, and he's and I said this earlier, in an earlier episode, that pulp characters inspire and noir characters conspire. Okay, because pulp characters tend to go against the grain. They tend to stick out because of their morality, because of their code. And noir characters tend to go with the flow and stick and kind of go where what's the best thing for them. They tend to be selfish, they self-centered. My survival above all else. And so.
They think they know better. They think they're the only one to solve the problem. I just finished a game like that where there's this one character, and you think, even though he is the main character, but you think the actual game is about another character because he's the prince, and that's normally how it goes, right? The prince, the hidden prince becomes king, and and instead at the end, the hidden prince does become king, but then your character becomes visibly disillusioned with him, he starts ignoring him, and I was like, oh, this guy's dead. And sure enough, at the end, you find out this guy was raised as a king maker. He was raised to make the right people, put the right people in charge. And when he found out this guy wasn't the right people, he's like, okay, I'm going to use you to get what I want. But after that, you're done.
Right.
Dang.
Right.
You got to check the game later.
So finally someone understands. And damn right. And I like Xenogears more than FF. Final Fantasy.
I like Octolad.
Xenogears that was an amazing game.
Mm-hmm.
The principles. I loved how they named was it the godlike sentient children? They were, I can't remember what they were, but they were like albedo and rabido. They're alchemical spells or not, or techniques.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, let me give you a practical world example of using these concepts in your writing. Okay, I had a hole in my script, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it for a long time, and until I learned this thing, right? Because I had a character who is definitely pulp. I mean, definitely pulp to the core, and yet I had this period of time where he went dormant, and where he was he went from giving orders to obeying orders, and for a long period of time, and so I could never figure out what was wrong with the script, because I'm I just kept asking that question: how would this guy wind up working a desk job for 50 years? I mean, how would this guy kind of give up that leadership position to do this thing over here? And I was like, did they break him, or was he broken for a while? And then I realized that what was happening was, in a way they did break him to the point where for a little while he acted noir, but deep down he was still pulp, because he thought he was doing the right thing, but they basically told him he couldn't be a hero to keep his job. He couldn't be a hero anymore, but he could still protect the United States.
I mean, I feel like it's really like choice flow charts,
Yeah, right.
Pulp, you have pulp, noir, da 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 da. Da 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 da. This way. Da 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 da. That way. Da 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 da. That way.
Right. Right. It's binary. It's ones and zeros. It's the binary.
I've got a similar thing in my book where this character, one of the daughters, one of the sins, she's captured. She's put in this machine called the White Throne, which essentially like drains her magical energy and converts it into electricity. Right. And every day that they use that on her essentially kills her because it's supposed to drain all of what they call anima away. And when it does that, it normally kills another person. Right. And she does kind of die, but since she is half Fae highborn, that same energy it is reinvigorated every dawn, like all other Fae creatures. And so they figure that out, and they're like, "Hey, rechargeable battery."
Right, exactly.
But like she's literally being burned and melted and killed every day. Right. And so at the end of like 30 days of being like this, she's rescued. And she rips this, there's a piece of the throne that's attached to her arm, and she tears free and shoves one of the guys into the corner and goes to kill him. Because, she's been dreaming. this is just, she's like a wild animal released out of a cage, right? Right. And she's like going to kill him. And then at the last second, he starts praying to his God, like, my God will absolve me and all this other stuff. And she's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to let you take that from me. Right. And in a way I could kind of say, because she's like, it's that whole thing like you're talking about, like she has always had a moral code, and she would never think somebody would do this to anyone else. And then somebody did it to her. So then she was willing to be part of that world. But in the end, when it came time to do that, she couldn't. Mm-hmm. Right. Because she's like, I won't let you take that from me. Right.
And that gives the chills just talking about it, right? Because ultimately, it's not, even if you're justified, and like when bad things happen to people, and they're justified in being a victim, and they choose not to be a victim, or not choose.
And I feel like a lot of stories nowadays, they go with that, right? And they're just like, yeah, he's angry, so we beat him to death, and and it's that's real. And I'm like, that's not always real. No, that's not always what people choose. And I'm like, you know what? No, like. I think
it's like the Auschwitz people who forgave the Germans. Yeah. Because they couldn't live with that.
Well, the Diary of Anne Frank, right? I mean, at the end of it, she's like, in spite of everything, I still believe people are good at heart. I'm like, how freaking angelic could a soul be?
Right. Yes. Right. And like my character, he finally like he quits his job, okay, and he said, and on his way home, he actually intervenes for the first time, and he realizes that even he thought he was powerless all this time. He walked around with his arm in a sling, and suddenly the moment he powers up to intervene, his hand moves, and he realizes they lied about that too. Dang. And the only reason why he spent all this time, doing things one-armed, he could have been using his hand all along if he had actually just powered up, and discovers that they lied about that too. And it's like if he had like stayed true to his personality or to his moral code, then he would have figured this out a long time ago. But it took him 50 years to finally say, okay, I'm not I gave all this up because I thought I was helping. They told me I was helping. I figured out that they lied about that. And so he like springs back to true, intervenes in a situation, and he finds out that he still had the power all along, and but that's the thing about pulp characters. Even if they lose the way for a while, they will spring back to true eventually. They have to. It's the they have that moral compass that eventually it's going to point north. Okay. And knowing that about your character, even if you take them dark places, knowing that eventually they are going to spring back to true, they are going to find their way back to themselves, find their way back to that moral code that like for instance, Heinlein wrote Conan. Conan even though he's a barbarian, even though he does all these things, the reason what makes Conan intriguing is that no matter what he had to face, he was going to true to himself. He was true to that Sumerian code, and that made him a pulp character. No matter how deep in he's thrown, he's always going to find his way back out because of that code, right? And that just makes people that Heinlein also wrote Solomon Kane, and very similar. Solomon Kane had that moral code, that unchangeable moral code that no matter what demons he had to face, or no matter what monsters he had to slay, or people that were acting like monsters he slayed, he would eventually wind up back at the elastic. He would slap back to true. Now, what that matters is in your writing, if you know that your character has that, then you would know that eventually that you have to bring that back full circle. If you have a noir character, that noir character is, because he doesn't have a moral code, is going to be influenced by people with a moral code.
Rudderless.
True.
Rudderless, right. But then you'll have the Han Solo, who brings the Millennial Falcon back into combat when he was free. He had his payment, and he was gone, but he came back. Why? Because he had acquired a moral code from being around Luke and being around everybody else. And
it's the power of friendship.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, the thing about it is, though, is he did kind of have his own kind of moral code, though, but he didn't have like a true north, and they kind of like gave him that true north, and he's like, this is worth fighting for. Okay, I finally found something that was worth my life, and so he joined the cause, and when you see that, that's like the redemption arc, and
yeah,
and Kimosabe told me about this book. I can't remember the name of it, but there was this character who was very much like a Batman. Okay. And, but there's like parallel versions of him. And one of them was like the Dark Knight Batman. And one of them was like the 1966 Batman. Okay. G. Goss Golly Willikers guy. Right. And somehow they switched places in their universes. And he said the 1966, hey, hello, chum guy actually impacted that universe. You have people like piercings and cutting themselves, and like, brutal, like nihilistic villains. And they were like, hey, maybe I've damaged my life here. Maybe I should start, thinking about things, so he like being a pulp hero in that nihilistic noir world impacted that world, but then the pulp guy was in the noir guy was in the pulp world, and being there, and kind of like being around heroic people and being around people who had a brighter outlook on things, he started like saying, well, maybe I shouldn't be so extreme. Maybe I should get over, the death of my ward, and maybe think of a different way of doing things, But it's that whole pulp noir thing, the noir is always going to be more influenced by pulp than pulp is noir. And so knowing this, when you go in, what kind of story you've got, the pulp character is always going to let you know where the story is going to go because of that inflexible moral compass. That you're always going to know where the story is going to land in a way, because that you've got that one like pillar in your story that you can be sure of. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives your story a structure. It gives you like I guess it gives you a like if you plow a field, you don't look straight down, or you have a road that's like that. The only way to plow a field straight is to look at a distant point, something that's unmoving, and head towards it.
It's your trajectory.
Trajectory, right. Right. Exactly. And so it's the binary code basically. And I think it's the building block of all good stories, especially character-wise, is this dichotomy. And if you kind of like keep that in mind, then your actions of your characters will start making more sense.
I think I wouldn't what I would do with it is use it sort of like a word chart. Like when you're missing, and like you don't want something to be redundant, and you're missing that vocabulary, so you pull out a word chart and you're like, yeah, that's good. That kind of keeps you in line. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think it's that kind of thing. Like it's like, okay, if you're having problems, if you're like, this just doesn't feel right,
mm-hmm.
and if you break it down into those elements, that might help you figure it out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's just something to use in your toolbox, especially when you're building characters. And it definitely establishes a redemption arcs. If you want a redemption arc, you have to know what they need to be redeemed from and where they need to get to be redeemed. Otherwise, you need your oddly enough. If you watch something like Blade Runner, and you think Roy Batty is the noir character, and then at the very end you realize he was the pulp character.
And what is this?
Blade Runner.
Okay.
So you think Roy Batty all along is the noir character, but then at the very end you realize he was the pulp character, and Deckard was the noir character.
No, I never thought that. I always thought it. Because it was as soon as he quoted Orc from Blake, I was like, okay.
Well, of humanity, the rest of humanity thought that. They thought
when he quoted Orc from Blake, and then if you read the poem London by William Blake, where he talks about walking down the streets, hearing the horse cry, and the blood falling like a side on the palace walls from the soldiers. That is basically the same thing that Batty says. He just says it about the future. It's a future London.
Yeah.
So I mean, like as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, he's got a specific reasoning. So he is, if I were to classify them this way, then that's immediately what I always thought. He was always the good guy.
Yeah.
Deckard was the one that was changed.
Right.
Because he thought, okay, you're all creatures, you're nothing, you're all to be killed. And then he's like, okay, maybe this girl is special. Let's find out.
Well, but the thing about it is, though, is it's like I know a lot of people, a lot of purists don't like the voiceover. And I mean, Harrison Ford like melded in, but I'd always thought that flat reading actually worked for the piece. But he says something in that voiceover. He's like, there at the end, he realized that he loved life. There at the end when he saved Deckard and like pulled him up, could have let him. He had him. He could just dropped him. But that moment, because he was losing his life, it became precious to him, right? And of course the
I also think the thing is the whole, like, I think people miss this. The whole idea of the entire deal was these people don't think for themselves. Right. They have a specific code. He was a soldier. What's a soldier do? They kill. They run orders. He defied his orders. Yeah, his own orders. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I will not be defined by what you make me. Right. I will be defined by the choices I make.
And it's one of the most beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful character arcs in all of modern. That's why we're still talking about Blade Runner,
because it is shown. It's not in your face. You have to pay attention to everything, But like I said, like the whole idea is that They are, because he was, he's like, no, they don't have real emotions. They just have complex algorithms that seem like emotions. You don't have memories. You have, different
the void comp test that they do.
Yeah, you have, these kind of things that seem like that. It's a uncanny. It's uncanny valley, but not visual. It's mental uncanny valley, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny. There's a paper a lady did. Called the uncanny vulva, a psychiatrist did last year. Anyway,
Cyberpunk says that's right on. Deckard was noir like crazy. Yep, yeah, he started out noir definitely. I like both versions actually, and this is deep stuff, bros. Well, but at the end of the day, when you go to write, and I see when I see poor writing. And I see it a lot. Unfortunately, I see it a lot, which is why this channel was here.
Rings of poop.
Yeah, rings of poop, right. But when I see...
you said rings of poop. Go ahead.
Rings of poop, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. No, we're not talking about Poothulu.
Christopher Robin!
Wow, that's messed up.
You guys got to see Poothulu sometime. When it comes out,
that sounds good.
It's awesome. It is so awesome. Anyway, but
Cthulhu. That just makes me think of Cthulhu made of shit.
It's Winnie the Pooh, 100 Acre Woods, via Lovecraft.
Yeah, I figured, but I just think it's funny.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, so the bottom line though is the problems I see is when people don't know what's at the core of their characters, and so they can't differentiate the characters. And I one of the most popular book series in all of CG, guys, sold millions of copies by now. I don't know, hundreds of thousands at least. And you read this thing, and none of the characters seem to have a different. There's like one character in the whole entire thing that I've found a moral code in, and he never uses them, right? Because this guy like sacrifices himself early on, and to like save them.
Do you know what that's indicative of? And it's very popular, probably in the past like 30 years of writing.
Okay.
People don't write characters; they write to scenes.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then they force the narrative to fit the scene.
Yeah. Right.
And then it's stupid. Like I was, it's the same thing as like choreography should be a story of its own. You're telling a story with the movements the characters make.
Right.
But all the time you have like the battle in was it Last Jedi?
Mm-hmm.
The when the both of them are fighting the elite guards or whatever.
Yeah, that was trash.
And you just have her like they're literally purposefully missing her and turning around and spinning for no reason, and it's like, okay, this just looks dumb.
Yes.
Right.
This looks like you gave a bunch of retards lightsabers and told them to have fun.
Right.
No offense, but
buddy, I have Asperger's and I do not care. You get a pass.
You get what I'm saying? It is just like you gave
Fun fact. The word retardation doesn't really refer to people in general. It's literally just something that...
It just means...
It's a definition.
Means a slow down.
Exactly.
It just means a slow down of momentum.
It's like tardiness, as the root of the word re is a prefix and all that kind of stuff.
Reinforced tardation.
Yeah.
So I
we
get
need to reclaim retard though. We gotta reclaim retard.
But it is. It's just But that's what happens is all these people, and I see that in comics all the time. They're like, I want to write to a scene or I want to write to an agenda.
Right.
When you write to an agenda, you fail. I saw that the first thing in Last Jedi because I'm like, you're making these characters stupid so that your agenda works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
And you're making these scenes stupid, like, oh my God, those horrible machines in The Last Jedi where it's like the reverse, I don't know, they had like a bowling ball lane for the bombs that was attached to the sides of the inner side of the machine for some reason and dropped down with some sort of magnetic something. I'm like, that is the worst delivery system I've ever seen.
Right. Well, Yeah, well, the bottom line, that I really hope that if anybody watches this, that they get from this series is we're talking about a binary, okay? And they hate binaries. They hate black and white. They hate ones and zeros. They hate like right wrong. They hate moral code, no moral code. You
I
know.
don't think they hate binary. I think they're too stupid to realize that binary is not exclusionary.
No, it's not.
That's the difference. Is that binary, like zeros? I mean, binary code is not just 0 and 1. That's it. It's not just 0 or 1. That's not what it is.
If you stack those ones and zeros on top of each other enough, you get variety. Okay, but you have to have that structure, and I see story after story where people they didn't like put the foundation under the house before they built the house. And the foundation under the house is, do your characters have a moral code or do they not have?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they don't get is that without the setup, the payoff doesn't matter. If I don't care about your character, I don't care that they die.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like it. Go ahead.
No, just shouting out Aunt May from MCU.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, Aunt May is one. I mean, there's a few like like in these movies recently where like some character will die and they're like playing this sad music. They want you to be devastated, and I'm like, I could care less.
No, when I saw her die, I said, "Good, I'm glad she's dead."
Well, it's like
I mean, dude, I'm voting for the orcs in Rings of Power. I'm just saying.
I call it the Kenny. I call it the Kenny principle.
Oh yeah.
From South Park, they killed Kenny. Those bastards. Move on.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is. If you don't have any kind of like depth to your character, if you don't have like a specific thing that they add to the story, then people won't know if they left the story. If they don't have any impact on the story, then it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
I think what happens is, like, if you have a noir character, like I said, there has to be drama, there has to be conflict. So if you have a noir character, then the world has to change around them because they're just going through it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want the drama, the world has to change. The world has to impose itself upon them. You know what I mean? I tell people that, like, when we talk about like just the world itself, it's like, the world is supposed to be hard. Doing things in life is supposed to be hard because you are supposed to break yourself trying to chip away at it.
Right.
And in doing so, you craft not the world, but yourself.
Well, I would say that writing, though, is imposing order onto chaos because you're taking something completely out of the ether that has no form and you're giving it structure. And so if you don't build it from the ground up, then you're going to have
answering a series of questions is essentially what writing is.
Exactly. Binary. You got like two pathways you can go. Do you go right or you go left? Knowing if your character will go right or left is vital. And even if that character never does that, but knowing that they could, if they came to that potential, which direction they would go. You can write that character all day long. You can write any story with that character, and the story will come from the character. And you see these ephemeral stories that really have these characters basically are one and dones, and you never care about them. You never care what happens to them. I got book after book on that shelf in there. I mean, I was a heavy duty in CG when I first started, and I got just about everything that was out for a couple years. Okay, maybe almost 3 years, and I can tell you right now that there's very little I would read again. And that is sad. Okay. That's why this channel is here, because I want to change that. Okay. And the way to change that is by teaching people how to make characters that you care about. I had a comic that I rage quit. I've never done that before because this character, there was nothing in this book that had any character that had any moral code whatsoever. You thought this guy had a moral code, and then he does something completely amoral, and the book is just pointless. Okay. And this is a very popular writer in CG.
Is this Jawbreakers?
No, it's not Jawbreakers. It's
he finished that one.
Yeah. Well, Jawbreakers has the same problem. I'm not gonna lie, it has the same problem. But it's not that one. It's actually Super Dead. Okay, I'll just say that. I rage quit that comic. I absolutely rage quit that comic, and it just had to do with I thought that there was like redemption arc going on, and it was absolutely not a redemption arc. It was just a horror story, but it portrayed itself as a redemption arc, and that infuriated me so bad because and it suckered me into reading this piece of nihilistic trash. And
I don't know. Some people like that kind of like
those people
porn.
that just adored it.
They love the misery porn kind of stuff, and I'm just I've never been into that. I'm like,
no. Hold on 1 second. We'll get these before we go. Hold on. Shadowpunk has no moral code yet. See, we'll get there. Buddy's new icon looks like Unimind. Okay. Gotcha. Corey Barton, welcome in, man. Just in time for us to leave you, man. All right. Anyway, as an olive branch, back Kozar, I think it's still in IGG. It's Kozor. Check it out. I'm pretty sure it's probably negative and nihilistic, but but they embrace it.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people didn't understand about was it Guts, and that whole series is that was actually a display of emotion that was shown. It was like there's like let's put these people in a completely unwinnable, untenable situation.
Yeah.
Because that is what shadow work is supposed to be. That is you're facing, quote unquote, your demons.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you have nothing left and even your body is not enough, like you're not allowed to die, you're not allowed to, all these things, whatever, because of the rigidity of the story itself, because of the meta of the universe, because, it's created. What do you do?
This is bullshit. I'm calling this. Kozar is a happy story. You'll feel good after it. New outlook on life. That's bullshit. That is such bullshit.
Yo, we're petting puppies and everything, man.
Bullshit.
I saw the spread he put out, and that's a lie.
In the it's like in the mouth of madness. I think it's the code. It's like the parentheses. Or no, that's not gonna be happy. Anyway,
I'm happy though that his creatures were somewhat original and not just like Stranger Things knockoffs, which a lot of people have done for anything like aberrant.
Right.
So good on you, Corey.
Good on you, man. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got for tonight. Wolfsbane, I think you've got Wolfsbane 2 sign up going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if you go to my Twitter page at Wolfsbane Comics, you'll be able to see in the pinned tweet there. We got a nice horror story. It tells about the man and the monster, and the monster is pretty much both what's on the outside. You got ferocious werewolves going in, and it also deals with the monster that's inside man's heart. So I think you guys will love it. 32 pages, pure story. Go and check it out.
All righty. And Mr. Buddy has bladennight.com, I believe.
Yeah. You can go to bladennight.com. It's got the connection to both the books. You can sign up there and you get more updates when they come. The book is nearly done. There's 4 pages left now. Yay.
4. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, we're down to 4 pages. So, we should reach what I said, which is I wanted it done. I basically gave X a deadline. I'm like, I wanted to finish by the end of September. And so it looks like we're going to make that. So that's good, just barely. And then we will go into pre-press, and that'll take, I don't know, another month.
Yeah. And you're opening up the Kickstarter shortly thereafter, I believe.
Yeah, we're gonna open up a Kickstarter that's gonna have some new goodies. It'll have a new cover on the book. There's gonna be a hardcover. Is gonna be the main selling thing there. There's been talk of a plushie, but we haven't created the designs for it, so I don't want to.
I want a Remington plushie. Make it happen.
I know, right? This is what people tell me. And then there's going to be obviously a collectible set, but our collectible set's a bit different than most people because X is thematic and hates doing anything normal. Right. So he wants. Basically, we've created there's an actual item in game called the Eternum Cavia, which means the Eternum Cage, and he has made a box set represent Nikki, or excuse me, not Nikki, but Rowena being trapped within this kind of cage, and that is the actual box, and so then there's going to be like original art of Rowena, and we're trying to get a molded figure that I put in there. I've looked at like getting even a blister pack done for it, but that's. It would take a bit because that's expensive. They're about $7 a piece just for the blister. So, anyway,
right. Yeah. Anyway, one more little piece of bullshit from Corey Barton. You will be like, I'm glad I'm not this guy. My life is much better. That's how he makes you feel better. Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, that's probably true there. That's probably true. All right.
It's basically, Hellraiser, but with swords.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, that's all we've got for the night, gentlemen. I hope that's going to help somebody out there to write better. You guys think my theory holds water, though?
Yeah.
Well, I think like what I said is like it is a thing to think about, and it will. It's not like oh god, I wouldn't even consider it binary, but I get what you're saying by that. Yeah. But it is. I definitely think it's a good tool. I'll leave it at that. It's a good tool.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I got a tacit approval from Buddy, which is actually a home run for anybody else. So there you go.
Dude, this man is truly an ace-level mind, bro.
Woo! Victory! A tacit approval.
I am. I hate it. Everybody says I'm a bit discerning,
Well, it's like Odin gave a good review for Kieri earlier, and I was like, "Did you steal his firstborn child?" He's giving a good review. When are you going to release him? Anyway, it is what it is. All right, thank you guys. I had a great time. And tomorrow night we'll be doing the love stream. I'm going to have a villain.
The love stream.
Yeah. We're gonna have a villain quiz for you guys. Anyone that shows up, hopefully we'll have a good crowd. Anyway, that will be tomorrow night at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, and y'all have a good night. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Tell me what's on your mind.